Okay, hey Al. So a few things. Loading up to the top of the backswing, you're doing a tremendous job of staying centered, which is great. Also, your rib cage or your upper spine is really loading to help you stay centered up here. Like we talked about before, the upper back kind of starts out rounded, and then as it moves to create leverage, it moves into an extended position. So you're doing that phenomenally. And then the thing I really loved was how well you're starting to surf. I would say you're done with that piece in terms of surfing or lateral movement, because you're centered here, you move to the bottom of the arc, and then you don't move any more forward than that. So you're in a great spot. Now, we looked at a couple things, and we've talked about this before in terms of the right glute and how, you know, if I drew a line right here, I'd like it to at least stay there throughout the top of the backswing, rather than you have it slightly come forward as a result of sort of coming out of this right leg. So a drill that I'd like you to play around with is, I've got, this deal holds my alignment rods, but you can use, you know, like a wooden dowel or a shaft or anything that you can kind of put underneath your right foot. And what I'm going to do here is, I've got this laid down, and I'm going to put this on the edge of my foot here. So it's kind of like a pitcher's mound almost, kind of that effect. And what I would do is hit some balls up against here. And what that's going to allow is, it's going to allow this leg to not lose the engagement and kind of stand up. It's going to allow you to feel what you would feel winding up to throw a pitch. But you can hit balls with this under your foot. It would look like this if I just chipped one. So, something under the right foot, because I'd like you to feel the sensation of not losing all the flex in your right knee. You're going to lose some of it as you wind up, but I don't want you to lose all of it so that it causes this glute to come back. So the feeling would be rotating into your hips as much as you can on the wind up, but you've got this under your foot. So you're rotating, but simultaneously you've got some leverage with the ground there, and that's gonna allow you to feel how important this right leg, this right hip, this right rib, the entire right side of the body is for leverage to move the club into impact. So that would be the first thing. Now, the next thing is, if we get that right, then we'll have a better chance of compressing it differently. Because what I see in you is good, 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 and then coming down pretty good, and then you start to lose this angle in this right wrist, and it goes this way on you a little bit. So what that means is the right wrist overthrows and makes the left wrist break down a touch, so it scoops underneath on you a touch. So the function of this right wrist, and maybe from the first program you did where we did the baseball throw, when we went like this, the purpose of the baseball throw was to get the right arm back in front of the right shoulder, but to have the wrist angle still intact. Because good players won't lose this wrist angle until the bottom of the arc, where it'll kind of square the face up. Where you've got a situation where you're losing this wrist angle back here, and then by the time you get to impact, you're under this way, and it causes the right hand to go under like this. So the sensation would be like you're holding that baseball and coming down, and this angle is not, you're not letting go of that angle. For you, it might even feel like you never let go of that angle as a drill to keep that wrist angle intact. Because what I want to do is I want to be able to come down, my wrists are loaded, shift my weight, my wrists are still loaded, right elbow starts to uncock, but the right wrist didn't uncock. Then at the bottom of the arc, I'm starting to turn, and I'll slightly uncock that wrist, but then watch, my right hand will stay on top of the club through here. It won't go underneath this way and get a little scoopy on you. So, one way I'd like you to hit some golf balls is, you know, we worked on this because you can really train the function of this right wrist a lot better, I think, doing short game shots, wedges, 9-irons, 8-irons, just to feel it at a little bit slower speed, because the faster you go, the more that's going to want to, if that's your tendency, the more that's going to want to kind of come undone. So what I'd like you to feel is, and this is a drill I used to do a lot in college, is it's called the flying wedge drill. And what that means is, as I come down into impact, we would spend a lot of time working on the club head staying outside the hands through impact. So it looks like this. Now you can see how if I scoop this right wrist underneath, it'd look more like that. But if I can come down into the ground a little more aggressively, use the ground for support or for stabilization of the club face, and then keep the club head outside my hands through here. Hitting the ground is going to help that sensation, so I'd like you to really start to take some divots, almost get to where you feel like you're too steep, and then back off. And then hit some balls feeling like this right wrist stays loaded and never scoops. So for you, the exaggeration would probably feel like that. So something you'd probably see out of like a Zach Johnson or someone like that. If I do it down the line here, and if you slow this down and watch, you'll see what I mean in terms of this staying outside of that. So, if we can get the sensation correct in your right leg, you're turning and loading as much as you can into this right hip, but this pitcher's mound you have here is going to help you keep the stability in that right leg. Then spend a lot of time through impact not letting the club head go around the corner before the hands do. So it'll look like this. Now I'm not pulling my hands over there. My hands, arms, body, and club are all matching through here. What I'm not doing is unloading this wrist at all. I want, when my wrists come down into impact, I want this sensation to be there throughout this entire part of the swing right here. Because that's how I keep the face squared to the arc. If this breaks down, then I lose that sensation and I lose a lot of the pressure and the leverage in the right wrist. So, baseball throw, keeping that right wrist intact, and then even through here, that right wrist doesn't break down. Hit a bunch of little shots like this, feeling the club outside the hand, and then let me know how that feels. You can tighten this grip pressure up in the right hand too to help with that. Because if it gets loose, it'll break down. If it stays firm, it won't break down. Pitcher's mound, get the right leg correct. Because for you to do this properly, it's going to force the glutes to stay back. Or if the glutes stay back, you're going to be able to create the proper compression at the bottom of the arc. So I hope this helps. I appreciate it. Thanks for sending this, and I look forward to potentially spending some time in person down the road and continuing to work with you. So thanks again, Al.